So Godzilla King of the Monsters has finally hit theaters, and it's got some of the critics confused as to what the movie was actually supposed to be about, apparently. I don't know, but we're going to talk about it right now. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another movie news video. My name is Joker, and today, that's right, we're talking about Godzilla King of the Monsters. So I'm not necessarily a huge fan of big monster movies. I do have a lot of respect for Godzilla because it is one monster that has withstood the test of time for literally decades. Like, we have all known this monster from way back when to even now. I even remember I went to go see the first Godzilla, which came out in 2014 with my girlfriend at the time, and we just kind of went on a whim, and honestly, the movie wasn't bad. I mean, I enjoyed it, but again, it just wasn't something that I was going to get really invested into. And now that we've got Godzilla King of the Monsters coming out and supposed to be parallel alongside King Kong leading up to Godzilla vs. Kong, I'm not really sure how I'm feeling about it. I might see it once it comes out. I might rent it or something, or if it hits Netflix at some point, I might go. I don't think I'm going to be going to the theater to go see this movie. It just doesn't really seem like something I'm interested in. But, you know, we've got some box office numbers to talk about to see what exactly we're dealing with when it comes to this movie. This is not a review of the movie because obviously I haven't seen it, but I just thought there's some stuff about this movie that we need to talk about because it seems really interesting when you look at the two different little parallels between the critic views and the audience views. Now, that's no surprise, but you'll see what I'm saying. So first of all, I think it's important to note that the opening weekend for this movie was projected to make about $50 million, which is reasonable, I would say, and everyone's upset because it didn't actually hit that number. It only hit $49 million, so you're off by $1 million. I mean, that's not so bad. It made up the money later, but when you compare it to stuff like Godzilla, which came out in 2014, that had an opening weekend of $93 million, and then again with the Monster Universe with Kong Skull Island coming out, and it had $61 million in its opening weekend. So even dropping below the $50 million mark, and then again below both of those other movies, it's kind of wondering what is it that's making this movie drop so low. But it did end up passing that $50 million mark as of June 3rd. The domestic box office numbers were at $51 million, with the worldwide being at $181 million. So that's fantastic. You know, it's picking up that lost speed already from the one day, and it's already like halfway through the week. And this movie is doing great in overseas in the foreign box office because, you know, that's what all they're about. They're about the crazy action films, and a lot of people have been jokingly saying that they enjoy watching movies of the United States getting destroyed by giant monsters, apparently. But also, you know, a lot of the foreign market is also well known. They know who Godzilla is. That's something that they're really fond of. You know, everyone loves Godzilla. So everyone knows who that is already, so they're going to go see it for the action and the giant monsters. That's just a big thing, especially over in, you know, in Japan and China. It's all about big monster movies, and that's how we do that here, and they just eat it up, and that's where the foreign box office comes in. But the film does have a budget of $170 million, so even though it's at $181 million worldwide, it still has a little bit more before it actually breaks even and goes above that and starts actually making some money. But again, it just came out and it's already at $181 million, so it's definitely going to go above that number, and it's definitely going to make some money and not just break even. So that's great for the movie. But when you look at some of the reviews that we've been seeing, it's pretty interesting because apparently critics just don't get this movie and they really don't seem to see what exactly it's about. Some of the critics scores from Rotten Tomatoes before, you know, they finally changed Rotten Tomatoes if you're not aware. So when the movies come out for the pre-screenings for critics, we get critic reviews on Rotten Tomatoes first, and once the movie actually publicly hits theaters, then we can get the audience review. So that way people can't go in and sabotage the movie before it comes out. So that's pretty great. But we've got the critic scores here at a 48%, and the reasoning for it is what baffles me a little bit, because if you're going into a movie called Godzilla King of the Monsters, you kind of know what you're going for. You're going to see Godzilla be Godzilla and fight other monsters like Mothra, for example. Mothra is the best. But it's sitting at 48%, and it says that it was given a 48% because there is not enough human drama and too much mindless action. Now, here's what I'm a little confused about. You go to see, like I just said, a movie called Godzilla King of the Monsters. It's a monster movie about Godzilla fighting other monsters. What are you going to see? Are you going to see the human drama, or are you going to see Godzilla fight giant monsters like Mothra? For real. But again, that was taken aback when looking at the other reviews from other people that went to go see the movie when it finally hit theaters, and everyone seems to enjoy it. Why? Because they're going for that monster movie portion. That's why they're going to see it. They're not going to see some family drama in the middle of it. Sure, there should be some human interaction. You know, it can't just be a bunch of monsters roaring back and forth at each other because, you know, there wouldn't be a stronger plot. Having the human counterparts, I think the humans, you know, should be the side characters in this, and we really should focus on the monsters being Godzilla, Mothra, and the plethora of other ones that I don't know the names of. But the point is that it's supposed to be a giant monster action film, so you should be focused on the mindless action and the monsters and not so much of the drama going on within the human relationships within the movie. And as far as the dynamic goes, this seems to be more for, you know, guys and boys and adult male areas, just because, you know, that's what they're into. They're into the big monsters and they're into action films. Well, you know, the female side probably not as much. It is possible, but for the majority of it is, you know, like 12-year-olds wanting to go with their dad to go see this big monster movie. Definitely something I would have done. So they're all going and they're loving it because they're going for the mindless action and the monsters, and that's what they're loving, and that's why it's going so hard against the critic reviews saying that there isn't enough of a plot to it. But I don't think that's exactly the point of this movie. I think it's just supposed to be a giant action monster movie setting up King of the Monsters so we can go into Godzilla versus King Kong, which is one of the biggest iconic rivalries in monster history and possible also in cinema history when you really look down the line. It may not be in the top 10 for sure, but it's been a thing for quite a while that Godzilla and King Kong are fighting constantly. But I will say this, if you're into monster movies and you're thinking about going to see it and you're on the fence if you want to see it or not, I would definitely say go check it out this weekend, boost those box office numbers a little bit and go enjoy some mindless action between giant monsters destroying the city, leveling everything, and fighting each other in the process. Now, of course, yes, there is some story with the characters to move it along so you know what's happening, obviously, but again, that shouldn't be the main focus of this movie. It is strictly monsters fighting. That's all you really got to go for. I honestly see this movie having a bigger second weekend for some reason, just because I feel like everyone's like, wow, you should really go see this movie. There's a lot of action in it. It's really awesome. So I think there's going to be some second repeaters, and I think a lot of the foreign market is also going to boost this a lot, seeing as it had a bigger opening in the foreign box office than it did domestically. That's the case for a lot of movies, but I think it's just going to keep going up and up because, again, it's just that big monster action-packed film. Now, it does have a little bit of competition, but not something that is really severe, as this weekend we're opening with Dark Phoenix, which is the final Fox-made Marvel film about the X-Men. That's closing out that gap, and then Marvel's going to take on from there. This could potentially be a threat, but maybe not as much. Both movies are probably lower on the spectrum, and a lot of people are not really happy with what Fox did with the X-Men to begin with, so they're just going to ignore the movie entirely. I'm personally going to go see it this weekend. That's something that I'm interested in seeing against Godzilla, so it's either going to be one or the other. I think either Godzilla is going to completely dominate over Dark Phoenix, or vice versa, or maybe it's going to be like a half and half kind of thing. I don't see one movie necessarily rampaging way over the other, but I mean, you never know. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I think Godzilla is going to do better than Dark Phoenix just because there's already a better cult following behind Godzilla than there is with the X-Men franchise right now. But again, only time will tell, and I'm definitely going to be keeping up with the box office scores on this alongside with obviously Avengers Endgame, which is still on the rise. It's at 2.715, getting real close to that Avatar spot. And I'm also going to be looking through Dark Phoenix to see exactly what happens with it, because it is one of the movies that is really low on the totem pole for a lot of people going to see the movies now, because X-Men just no one really cares about. They want it to be finished so Marvel can take over and create a new X-Men line that can move into the MCU. So there's a lot to deal with there, but Godzilla I think is going to be crushing it this weekend. Go see it if you're interested in that. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. Remember, if you like what you saw, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below if you want to go see Godzilla, and let me know if you want to see more movie news updates. But until then, and as always, I will see you guys next time.